Good Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to have you guys here. Thank you for tuning in. End of the show week. What happened this week with the financial markets? What happened this week in the war situation and everything else? You know, we are getting so close to really nasty stuff happening. I'm telling you guys, it seems like it's all converging. The financial system and the world financial system, the global financial system. Problems relating in it to the dollar and the power of the dollar. The BRICS nations, you all know what they want to do to the financial system. But it seems like it's all converging, the timing, with this war situation that's happening. And it's all just ahead in our future. It's all going to converge into a crisis, an enormous crisis like we've never seen before. It'll make 2008 pale in comparison to the crisis that's coming. Now, first I want to get this out of the way. There's a hurricane. It's called Oscar, and it's raising heck in Cuba. I guess Cuba's having a hard time keeping their power on. I just got the reports from National Hurricane Center. It looks like it's not going to hit Florida. It seems like they always hit Florida when they get close to Florida. Florida's a magnet for hurricanes, but this one, no. I don't think so. It's going to kind of turn up and go out to sea a little bit. That's what they're showing anyway. Now, with the war situation, they've had their opportunities here in the past couple months. Israel launched an attack against Iran or their proxies, and Iran will launch an attack toward Israel, and it's never really fully escalated into all-out war yet. It's almost like the timing of all of these things are kind of waiting for a convergence. It's the same way with the financial system. The financial system has got enormous problems, but it's almost like this convergence that I'm talking about, just ahead in our future. It almost looks like 2025. I mean, we're almost there. You know? You only got 2 months left, and we're in 2025. And it looks to me like this convergence of whatever it is going to happen in 2025, not 2024. I think things are going to drift through in 2024 here to the end of the year. But it's hellish what's going to happen to the consumer at Christmas time. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But North Korea is moving soldiers into Russia. From what I understand, it's 12,000, either 10,000. I've seen some reports 10,000 soldiers, some reports 12,000 soldiers. I guess they're getting training them. They're going to go in. They're going to fight in Ukraine. This shows how this war situation can spread into how it's spreading, and it's not just Russians fighting against Ukrainians, but we're also talking about mercenaries and stuff fighting in Ukraine from Western countries. And now you got North Koreans fighting. Soon in this war theater, we could have everybody fighting everybody. It's got this thing of spreading to 4 theaters. Right now, the war is really only in 1 theater right now. All out wars, just Ukraine and Russia. And Ukraine is operating under like proxy, and Russia is operating directly in Ukraine. So there's really only one country that's actually operating as a direct theater of war, and that's Ukraine and Russia themselves. Full war. But it looks like the war could spread next to the Middle East theater, which would be the second front. And then we've got the tensions in Taiwan. China just came in just this week and doing military exercises in around Taiwan. Huge military exercises. Then we got another theater, a fourth theater, which is South and North Korea. And North Korea just blew up their bridges. Not actually bridges, but roads or bridges or whatever, connecting them with North and South Korea. They just blew them up with explosions. This is just happening in the last few days. So this is kind of the stuff that's leading in to four theaters. North and South Korea fighting. Taiwan and China fighting. Israel and everybody else that surrounds them fighting. And still the war in Ukraine. This would be four theaters. And possibly the most potent theaters are the theaters that haven't opened up yet. Haven't really started yet. But we're moving in this direction. So you got your four of these big powers together. And the Chinese are talking about their new exercise called Joint Sword. What does that mean? Well, that means just what I'm talking about right now. These four theater of four big powers. That's Iran, Russia, North Korea, and China together like a joint sword, like a joint power. And this is the power of the BRICS. And then we have the West. We have countries like the United Kingdom, France, United States, Canada. This alliance is the NATO alliance. Japan. I could go on and name quite a few more. So we got the world in these two alliances right now. NATO and the BRICS. This is the worst situation you can possibly get if you want to generate an all-out world war situation, is to have the earth divided, but pretty much right down the middle, sliced right down the middle, with equal powers on either side that will not get along, and they're stressing themselves out. They're getting worse and worse. Every single day, it's always a creep. They're creeping toward this irreconcilable differences that I talked about. So, we're not there yet, but I can see it boiling. It's like, how much is it? If you've got a pot on the stove and the heat's on it and it's starting to form those little tiny bubbles, you're not making much of a prediction to say that in a few minutes that's going to come to a full boil. That's a no-brainer. Well, I'm watching this situation very carefully with these two sides. The world's divided itself in two sides, and I see the little bubbles developing. But the heat's on. And a lot of this heat is coming from the financial system itself. The financial system is cracking at the same speed as you see the tensions evolving in the world for war. And they're both coming to this point just in our future. I can't tell you exactly how long in our future, because it might take a little bit longer for this pot to boil, but I know where it's going. It's going to boil. It's going to boil over. And it's going to affect each and every one of our lives when it does. And so these tensions are not going to go away. It's going to get worse and worse, but where's it ultimately leading in the end? To a restructuring of the entire world. That's where it's leading. It's going to lead to a restructuring of the entire world. The entire world system is going to be affected by these two enormous factors, which is the financial system and world war, are coming together right in our future. You've got to be prepared, but even being prepared, there's so many different factors that could happen here that it's kind of like when it starts and stuff, you'll say, oh, I wish I had got some of that, or I wish I had some of this, or if only you could see exactly how to prepare for all of this. Now, so in Ukraine, they're sending these North Korean soldiers. They're in Russia right now. And now the United States intelligence talking about the war over in Israel. This is something right here. I just found this just a few minutes ago. That there's the documents have been leaked. Uh, it says the United States is investigating a leak of highly classified U.S. intelligence about Israel's plan to retaliate against Iran. According to 3 people familiar with the matter, one of the people familiar confirmed the document's authenticity. It's a leak that's deeply concerning, United States officials told CNN. So, there's a plan. Evidently, the plan's been leaked, but there's a plan to attack. Now, Israel's been holding off this attack. Last week I talked about this, and I said that maybe they're waiting for these surface-to-air missiles to arrive from the United States. The what's it called? It's not the ATACMS. It's a different one. It's better than the Patriot system. It's a high altitude missile defense. It's a defense shield, and I think there's a bit more to it than that. Iran is developing so-called secret weapons or whatever weapon systems, and Russia right now has come in and they've parked their ships in there. It says Iran is hosting naval drills of Russia right now. Russia's come in and parked a few ships in Iran. And they're doing these drills with Russia, and they're talking about giving Iran different types of weapon systems and stuff. Russia's really showing right now just how much they're on Iran's side. They're on Iran's side, and you know the West is showing the world just how much they're on Israel's side. And this is part of the divisions. They're flexing their muscles, the nations, right now, and they're kind of fitting themselves into this war theater scenario. They're kind of like stationing themselves. They're stationing the ships, they're positioning everything, and getting everything in place and ready. That's what they're doing. They're positioning. Russia's positioning. The United States is positioning. Those are 2 of the big players. China's positioning. The United Kingdom's positioning. They're all positioning right now for this big war. Now, how's the financial system looking right now? Well, consumers are running out of money, and this is really going to show up. Like, they're all out there telling everybody the economy's great, wonderful, wonderful economy and everything else. But meanwhile, there's a lot of rot out there in the actual economy. In the real world, if this was a turkey, they say, okay, we got a turkey in the oven, we take it out for dinner and everything else. It's great. It's cooking good. Everything's great about the turkey. They haul the turkey out of the oven, and as soon as the smell hits your nose, you're like, I'm not eating that. It's rotted. Well, that's the way with our economy. They're out there saying, oh, it's great, and everything else. But in the real world, this economy is not great. Consumers are running out of money, and it's going to start to show up at Christmas time, because they always tally everything up at Christmas. Say, oh, how's the consumer doing? And it's really going to show up at Christmas time. How's Christmas sales going to be? Because for an awful lot of retailers out there, they rely on that. Maybe they're saying to themselves, okay, we've held it together all this time. Let's see how how Christmas will go. If Christmas goes good, maybe we can stay in business a bit longer. If Christmas goes really bad for the retailer, maybe they're going to go under like a lot of others have, and then they lay off their people or whatever. It's just going to show things up, I think, when Christmas hits. It's going to show up the consumer. That they don't have much of a consumer out there right now because of inflation and because wages are not keeping up. And in general, okay, I know there's a few people out there who are really, really doing good still. And some people are doing absolutely fabulous. The rich are really doing Fabulous. They can afford to go out. Oh, there's no problem, but I heard the economy's good and they're going to go out and have a great Christmas. What about you? What about you? How's it going for you personally? Are you going to have to cut back this Christmas? Or are you going to be able to splurge? Consumers are running out of money. They're increasingly stressed by inflation and the exhaustion of the pandemic era savings. It's exhausted their pandemic era savings. I mean, it's just an awful lot of people are just getting absolutely tapped out right now. But meanwhile, we've got silver roaring up right now. It's went a little bit higher than I thought it would before the election. I thought it would tread water a little bit more, but it's actually starting to rise anyway. It shows the heat that's behind this thing. Get more heat coming in. Because whoever gets in office, it doesn't matter if it's Trump or if it's Kamala Harris, whichever one of those get in office, you're going to see big time creation of money. Modern monetary theory is going to rule. It doesn't matter which one you get in. And inflation's going to really roar up hot. Because they're going to have to make an awful lot of money, to buy all these new weapons and stuff. And to pay all these soldiers and everything else. And the cost of war is just beginning. But all the money, a lot of the money is going to go in, when the war really gets going, a lot of the money is going to go into the war effort. It ain't going to make it into your pocket. And so, which way is it going to go? It's going to be deflationary or inflationary. My tendency is to think that when they start to get a few little deflationary shocks, that they're going to pump the system full of money again. That's what I think they're going to do. Modern monetary theory, it's almost like the fat lady. She says, okay. She says, I'm going to go on a diet. I ain't eating nothing. And she really means it. She slams her fist down on the table, and I'm too heavy. I'm going to go on a diet. She's overweight. So she quits eating. Day goes by. Oh, gosh, she's getting hungry. 2 days goes by. 3 days goes by. Fourth day, you come to her house and she's just stuffing her face for everything she can go fat. And that's the way with them. They went on a diet. We're gonna raise interest rates and all this kind of stuff. They're just getting off of that diet right now. They're gonna go back to splurging. Especially when the first things come in that the economy is not good and it shows it's bad, then they're going to go back to splurging again. But at the same time, they're going to have all these wars going on that's going to be sucking money out. There's so much to configure here with all this, so much to think about, that it just strains the brain. Will the deflationary pressures of sending all of this resources into a war theater, including your young men and everything else, just into a slaughterhouse, but creating all these weapons? And sure, the weapons manufacturers, the military-industrial complex will get really rich and fat. But what about the people of your land? What are they going to look like when they can't even go to the grocery store and buy sugar? They have to get some sort of a rationing comes along. That's what happened in World War II. They rationed everything. Gas, sugar, you name it, all the way down the list. You didn't have nothing at home, nothing to eat. The husband comes home from work and says, what am I going to eat today? And the wife says, well, I don't know. She says, we do have a few potatoes, but there's no butter. Butter's rationed, sorry. He says, well, what am I going to put on my potatoes? And she says, well, you can have a little bit of sunflower oil on them. Put some salt in the sunflower oil. He says, I don't like that. I want butter. It's all the way down the line. It goes like that. That's war. It sucks up everything. It even sucks up metals and stuff. You know, back during World War II, they couldn't even make the pennies out of copper anymore. They had to make them out of steel in the 1940s in the United States because they were taking the copper for the war effort. Everything goes for the war effort. They suck the bread right out of your mouth for the war effort. And what does the war accomplish? You know, um, well, it gets so bad in the end, and they look at what they've done. And they see that they've killed an awful lot of people have died in the war, and then in the end, they start to actually feel bad, the general population, and they say, never again, we'll never do that again. But then they live a length of time, their lifespan. Like the World War II vets are disappearing. If I don't even know if there's hardly any of them left now, because the veterans, World War II, veterans, World War I, long gone, and they were the never again. They were holding it all back, right? Now they passed on, and these generations that have come along now, they don't know how bad all that is. And they learn how bad it all is, then they'll be saying never again, and then we'll have some peace for a while. But they're not going to do that until they get a taste of how repulsive war actually is. And why we just can't learn by, it's almost like we're almost like the little kids, little Eskimo kid. He comes up and he puts his hand on the stove. They don't stop him sometimes because they want him to learn that lesson, not to put his hand on the stove. And the only way to learn the lesson is by doing it. I mean, he does it once, not going to do it again. I saw this funny thing, on it was on YouTube. It was just a short clip. It might have been maybe 2 minutes long, right? And it was played by a famous actor. I can't think of his name right now, but it was like acting, but it was like a husband and wife. They're in the house at night. He was like reading his newspaper or whatever, and they had a little boy over there, and husband and wife, and he's sitting in like the lazy boy rocker, and he's rocking, reading his newspaper and stuff. And little Johnny's over there, squatting on the ground about 10 feet away, and gonna stick his finger in the outlet. So the wife looks over and she sees little Johnny, and she says, "No, no, 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 don't do that, don't." And Johnny looks over like that, you know. And the husband sitting in the lazy boy rocking chair reading his newspaper, he looks down too, and he goes to the wife, he says, hold on a minute. Don't go telling him not to do that. He says, well, he says to little Johnny, go on. You're going to do that. Go on, do it. You know? And all of a sudden the lights dim in the house. Bzz, bzz, there's a bzz, bzz sound. And then he looks back over and he says, I bet you won't do that again. It was funny, Anyway, it struck me funny. Anyway, I got to move on here. Got to get going. Taking a look at the markets, what they're doing right now. The S&P 500 on the week. This is what they did during the week. S&P is up 23 points at 56.64, or is it 58.64? And Dow Jones is 43,275, and it's up on the week too. Oil price is down a little bit this week. Crude oil's down $1.33 at 69.34. And we see the big movers. Gold, gold is 27.36. So there you go. I mean, it's like I was telling you guys when gold was $1,100. I was telling you guys it'd break 2,500. Didn't say exactly when, but now it's done it. So I'm sitting here, and gold is $2,700, and I'm telling you guys now it's going to break 3,000. It's going to break 4,000 probably, 5,000 even. What'll silver be by then? Silver, I tell you guys, is going to be the bigger mover than gold. But you got to wait until the rally is getting into its real teeth of the rally. We saw it. We see a $2 day, and I told you guys $3 days. Well, what I'm telling you guys, and that's talking about silver. $2 days. We saw $2 day. We're going to see these $3 days, and in fact, they're going to be multiple days strung together. Yeah, I'm thinking in my mind 2, maybe 3 weeks of days strung together of $3 each day. Because silver's got a lot of catching up to do. And I think when the time comes, it's going to catch up rather quickly. Going to start to catch up, and it's going to have to do those $3 days. I maybe even $5 days in order to catch up to it's where it needs to be. But it'll come to a point when silver that's sitting on the sidelines will start to be traded in at a certain point. And the second thing is when it gets up high, the mining production will start to slowly increase again because it's profitable. So the cure for low silver prices is high silver prices, and the cure for high silver prices is that's the cure for it is high silver prices. It'll feed the market. It's like, in a way, it's kind of like oil. Oil works that way, you know. And so ultimately, you're saying to yourself, well, how high can it go? In order for silver to equal the amount of inflation, and silver and gold always keep up with inflation, guys. It's going to have to top that $50 mark. Quite a few years ago, silver went up to like the $50 mark. But inflation, there's been a lot of inflation since then, till now. And what you could purchase for $50 back then when silver struck 50, a few years back, what you could purchase back then for $50 is about 3 times or 4 times what you can purchase now for $50. So that's your high tide mark. Figure 4 times. Figure a dollar's got about the purchasing power of 25 cents back when silver touched $50. So when silver hits $200, this is if inflation was static right now. But let's just say it takes a year for silver to hit $200 from now, or 2 years from now, silver hits $200. Then we've reached the point where maybe 2 years from now it has to hit 250 or 300 to equal that. But it's along in that area where silver's going to be getting pricey. It's not cheap anymore. Like right now, is sitting here, and the silver price is 33.68. That's still cheap, considering. Even at $50, it would still be cheap considering what you could purchase with these dollars now and what you could purchase with the dollars when silver struck 50 last time. And so it's I would say that if inflation doesn't really go crazy, probably around $250 an ounce for silver is where you're going to see it be in the equivalent spot it was when it was $50 last time, and then the price dropped back off again. So if we get this major bull market in silver and absolutely FOMO around it, and it roars up, probably the peak is going to be with the dollars being worth more or less, maybe a little bit less than it's worth now, maybe 20% less than it's worth now, probably around 200, maybe 300 would be the peak. But if the bottom comes out of inflation and the dollar loses all of its value, then it could be a lot higher. But it seems like we're kind of trending on this thing with the dollar, where it's not going into an immediate hyperinflation. It's kind of like trending along and losing value at an ever increasing pace, but we're still a little bit on the slow side of that. The hard to explain, but we haven't hit that exponential function, the curve, the hockey curve. We're not fully into that curve yet, where the dollar is losing value at straight up. We're on that little bit of a sloping incline leading to that point right now. We're on the part where we're heading up toward that hockey stick moment for the dollar, but we're not quite there yet. We're still on that little bit of a curve on the hockey stick where you're making the curve, the bend in the hockey stick. We're still on that. But when we're done that, then we're going to see the dollar move toward hyperinflation faster and faster. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit long in the tooth on this show right now. We're going to take a look at our bonds. U.S. 10-year finished the week at 4.08. U.S. 30-year at 4.38. So they're both well over 4% right now. And our U.S. dollar index this week, let's take a look like at 1 month here. And we can see that we reached lows there very close to 100 on the dollar index, but now it's up to 103.46. So it's bounced a little bit back. Going back to September, the 27th of September, where we're looking at 100.38. It seems like that was the lowest. And we've trended up nearly 3 percentage points since then, since late September. Okay, guys, thank you for listening to my show. Stay vigilant. Next weekend, I'm going to update you on the situation again. You guys have a great week. And remember, keep on prepping. Some of the things that you might not think you need, you might need, because at a certain point, when this thing really blows hard, I think that we're going to be dealing with, it's going to be a lot worse than it was during COVID, when you couldn't get toilet paper and stuff like that. And there was times during COVID when some things were out in the grocery store like that. This is going to be worse when this thing hits. In fact, the whole grocery store just might be closed. You don't have any food and water at home. You might have months that you need to get through. Picture it this way: during COVID, Chinese found it awfully hard. They were really locked down. And, picture a Chinese man. Maybe he had a few things in his house. Maybe he had a jug of cooking oil, a couple big bags of rice. Maybe he kept them at home, some water, and a few some vegetables, and a few other things. And the lockdown hit. His neighbors got locked right inside their house with nothing in their homes. They had to go hungry and thirsty. Maybe he had some and maybe very thankful. We're going to experience stuff like that in our countries, where you just can't run down to the grocery store and fill up a cart and drive home with it. You might have to wait. They might say, okay, it's going to be 2 months before we have anything in here for you at the grocery store. And they might say, stay home. How long is this going to last? 2 months. And I haven't got any food at home for 2 months, you might say. They'll think about stuff like that. What if it comes down to a situation like that? Thank you guys for listening to my show, and you guys have a great week. Bye-bye.